Coming up on the show today, Vince Wilfork is headed to the Texans. What he meant to the Pats on and off the field, invaluable. Can he be replaced? That will be the discussion we have in just a few moments. Plus, 49er linebacker retires at 24 years old. He was among the top defensive rookies last year, but concerns over head trauma have forced him to call it quits. Is it a trend or is this a unique set of circumstances? We will discuss that as well. But first, the Heat have now won 2 of their 3 games against the Cavs. Dwyane Wade scored 21 of his 32 points in the first half of the Heat's 106-92 win over the Cavs. Goran Dragic added 20. The Heat led by 25 in the third quarter and ended Cleveland's 4-game winning streak. James scored just 10 points in the first 3 quarters before finishing with 26. Kyrie Irving, 21 points as the Cavs saw their lead in the NBA Central Division cut to 2.5 games over Chicago. Again, they're wrapping up a 4-game road trip. Coach Blatt was asked if they were considering resting some of his players. He said, obviously, if the opportunity arises, he would do so. Stephen A. Smith, let me ask you this. Obviously, they were tired. LeBron mentioned that after the game. Do you have any specific takeaways after what you saw from last night?
Well, my takeaway from it, Kerry Skip, was simple. That if Dwyane Wade is healthy and the Miami Heat are clicking, they can knock somebody off in the Eastern Conference playoff picture. This is not a team that's just folded like a cheap tent with the absence of LeBron James. The combination of Dwyane Wade missing some games, not being healthy, and, of course, not having Chris Bosh. The second they acquired Goran Dragic. If Chris Bosh hadn't gone down because of his obvious health issues, and Dwyane Wade could give you anything, the fact is that we were looking at the Miami Heat possibly meeting the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals. Obviously, Atlanta is somebody that everybody's going to have to consider the way that they've been rolling this year. But it was quite possible that it was a 3-horse race in the Eastern Conference between Cleveland, Atlanta, and Miami if Bosh had never gone down. And when I see Dwyane Wade playing the way that he played last night, like Skip, is something that you've alluded to on many, many occasions. His pride, that intestinal fortitude that he has, his willingness to compete, to make sure everybody understands that he hasn't fallen off the map, etc. We all know that Dwyane Wade's issue, his health. That's really what it comes down to. When this brother is relatively healthy, even if it's at 75 to 80% and he's on the court, look out. He's coming. It's really that simple. And I thought he put a sensational show on last night. I thought he was absolutely great. Goran Dragic giving you 20 points from that point guard spot obviously makes him formidable. And the Miami Heat, assuming, that they could continue to play the way that they played last night, could still end up. I'm not saying that you can go in there as an 8th seed or a 7th seed, but if you can avoid Cleveland and Atlanta in the first round, a legitimate argument could be made that Miami can make things very, very interesting in the Eastern Conference. More than anything else, that's what I took from last night's game. I know Cleveland was tired, but they did get beat by Miami on Christmas Day. They weren't tired then. So I just think even though J.R. Smith and Amon Shumpert, they weren't there at that particular moment in time, I just look at Cleveland as a team that can amp it up in any given moment when they get clicking. And with Kyrie and LeBron being the dynamic duo that they are, to me, the only question about Cleveland is what they're going to be able to do with Kevin Love, because you're going to need him to win a championship, even though I don't think you'll need him to get out of the East. But with Miami, what I saw last night just taught me, or reminded me rather, that they could make things far more interesting than anybody thought they could if Dwyane Wade gets rolling.
I'm with you and then some. First of all, let me say, it looked for a long time last night like LeBron forgot to take his talents back to South Beach with him, because he didn't really start clicking until the game was completely out of hand in the fourth quarter when he scored 16 late points of his 26 points. And Stephen A., I thought that last night my man Dwyane Wade was sending a message to LeBron that, hey, my brother, just maybe you left a little too early, because I'm still Dwyane Wade when I'm right. And he was right last night. He was reasonably healthy thanks to the great Tim Grover, who continues to work his training magic on Dwyane Wade. And that was a sensational vintage performance from Dwyane, obviously. 13 out of 18 from the field. He obviously scored 21 of his 32 in the first half. Also threw in 5 steals. And Stephen A., This brings me to two things that I am rooting like mad for right now. As you know, I am rooting for a Kentucky versus Duke college final. I am rooting like crazy now for a LeBron versus D. Wade first round of the playoffs. And according to ESPN's Basketball Power Index, I got a great shot right now because it looks like Cleveland's a virtual lock for the 2 seed. And right now that Power Index gives Miami the best shot of landing in the 7th seed, which would play the 2 seed in the first round. Now, you could say, why would they want to take on Cleveland? Because they would be a decided underdog. I'm told that Pat Riley badly wants LeBron James in the first round. That's from a Heat insider.
That's accurate.
Okay? And again, I'm not sure the team badly wants LeBron. Maybe Dwyane does. But Pat Riley obviously still stung, and we talked about his recent quote, still stung from LeBron's departure. He thought, just summarizing, LeBron should have stuck it out, not turn tail and run home, just when things were going a little badly for a group that had been together for a good while and should have stayed together, according to Pat. So all of a sudden, you brought up Chris Bosh. If Chris Bosh were healthy, I would give the Heat a real shot against Cleveland in the first round. I'm not sure I can now, but maybe on emotion, if Dwyane is reasonably healthy, you know how I feel about Dwyane. He's the one guy in sports that you bet against at your own risk. If he's healthy, you keep making the point, is he? And that was, I think, one of LeBron's biggest points. No, he won't consistently be healthy. I can't risk this anymore. Well, Dwyane is starting to peak at just the right point in the season. Go ahead.
Couple of things we want to point out. Number one, listen, Pat Riley is an ultra competitor, and Pat Riley definitely wants LeBron James because he was stung. But at the same time, and you know how much I love me some Pat Riley and Mickey Arison and the Heat organization, but you have to look in the mirror about what you could have done differently. Pat Riley could have done a few things differently. And you also have to understand that LeBron James is about business. He makes business decisions. He made a business decision to depart from Cleveland and go to Miami. That was going to give him the best shot to win a championship. He didn't stick with his old team and his hometown team at that particular moment. Pat Riley had absolutely no problem with it whatsoever. So don't have a problem with it when he elects to leave. Number two, LeBron James was there for 4 years, missed a grand total of 18 games, came to play every night. And a lot of nights, he didn't find out that Dwyane Wade wasn't going to play until 2 hours before game time. That's a precarious position to put him in because he's got to look at his own basketball mortality and a workload that he's going to have to carry and wonder whether or not he can simply sustain that. I think he has a right to make that decision. You look at Kyrie Irving. Just a few days ago, we were raving about one of the greatest regular season games we've ever seen with Miami and San Antonio when Kyrie Irving dropped 57 points. And we said, wait a minute, this brother's 22, 23 years of age. I don't think anybody's going to look at him and say LeBron made the wrong decision by joining him from a longevity perspective. Number four, we look at Dwyane Wade. We know that Dwyane Wade's a future Hall of Famer. He's a superstar when healthy, but health is the lone impediment to his success. And if you combine that, if Dwyane Wade were healthy and Chris Bosh were healthy, I think we'd be looking at a Miami-Cleveland collision course in the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think there'd be any question about it. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And as a result, nobody's wrong. Pat Riley may want LeBron James, and they're going to put a body on LeBron. They're going to get physical with LeBron. But LeBron, in the same breath, he's not going to be as tired come playoff time because there are no back-to-backs to be concerned about. These guys are going to have days off in between games. And as a result, they'd be rested, he'd be rested, and the playoffs would be on the line, and they'd take it far more seriously than a regular season game. So although I applaud what I saw from Dwyane Wade, because he certainly has nothing to prove, because he is legit. We all know him to be a future Hall of Famer because he's that bad of a boy. The bottom line is let's pump the brakes just a little bit and not get too carried away with what we're seeing in a regular season game, because Pat Riley and the Miami Heat may very well need to be cautious and careful about what they're wishing for, because the LeBron James and Cleveland Cavaliers team that they saw on Christmas Day and last night I suspect will be far different than the ones you would see in the playoffs if the Miami Heat were to meet them.
Okay, I agree with what you just pointed out. That's great perspective. But do not forget, the Heat have two new pieces that at least make this interesting. Hassan Whiteside, when he decides to channel his emotions and his energy strictly into dominating the paint and not cheap-shotting opponents, has turned into a force. He had 16 and 11 and at least sort of neutralized Mozgov last night. I think he did more than neutral. I thought he outplayed Mozgov last night, even though Mozgov was at times pretty good. And then a Pat Riley favorite, his acquisition at the trade deadline. Kerry mentioned him. Goran Dragic.
I like him.
Pat Riley got him to attack, really for the first time since he's been with the Heat last night. 15 times he drove the basketball, and great things started to happen. He wound up with 20 and 9 because he can shoot those little mid-range jump shots. But those two pieces make them at least dangerous to me, along with a reasonably healthy D. Wade.
Well, I think what makes them dangerous more than anything, Skip, is the potential of a first-round matchup. Because let's say, for example, they met later, then that would be more of a workload on their body outside of the 82-game regular season. So if you're Pat Riley and the Miami Heat, and indeed you do want LeBron in Cleveland, you want them as early as possible, not late, number one, when they catch a rhythm, and number two, when you've had more taxing regimen placed on your body because of playoff competition that preceded that potential matchup. So to me, you want Cleveland as early as you can possibly get them if you're Miami and LeBron. I mean, you're Miami and D. Wade and those boys, and I understand that. But again, D. Wade is great, and you know I know that. But he ain't LeBron, and he doesn't have Chris Bosh. And those are two blows that hurt you. You don't have Chris Bosh.
Okay, but Pat Riley would love to see his team in the first round get to push and test LeBron James.
Sure,
that's all I'm saying.
Sure. And not only that, the future, too. He believes that in the future, when Chris Bosh comes back next year, they may be able to beat Cleveland.
You mentioned the first-round playoffs, and I have to agree with Eric Spoelstra. He says last night we're playing for our playoff lives. Right now, the Heat are in a three-way tie with Boston and Indiana for the final the two Eastern Conference playoff spot. Let's